I would recommend that if you are planning on reading any of those books, that you really do heed the trigger warnings, because they're, like I said, they're not for everybody. They don't hold back on anything in those books. And if you don't. Hello and welcome to Tracy Momi Reads. I am back again with another video. Today, I'm going to be doing something that you've all been waiting for. Probably not, but I know, like, throughout the year, I've been teasing and saying things about the Mafia books that I read or whatever, and how I think I started that last summer, and I, would read them in between other books, or that, I kind of was on a run with them for a while, but I never really talk about them on the channel. So today, for anyone who may be interested in any of those books, I am going to talk about my favorite books that I have read in that genre. I'm going to try to narrow it down to like 5, but I may do maybe 1 or 2 bonuses. But yeah. And let me explain to you, first of all, for those of you who may not know, or maybe you missed a video where I was talking about this. So the Mafia books, all of the ones that I'm going to talk about, they involve some level of organized crime. Okay. So whether or not that is considered, I think that, especially in the United States, that's a word that we have come to know, through like the media or television or whatever, as it maybe pertains to like New York mafias that are Italian, kind of like the Sopranos. I think that's what the broad idea of mafia is, or like The Godfather, classic peak cinema, movies like that, or TV shows like that with those type of characters. Well, there are so many layers and levels of, real world and fictional, when you talk about books in the Mafia genre, because like you have people that are like the Russian Mafia, but it's called the Bratva. It's, they don't refer to it as Mafia, but as far as genres goes and being under an umbrella, they're under that umbrella because it's all organized crime. You have the Irish Mafia, you have the Albanians, the Japanese, which are the Yakuza. So sometimes they just call themselves the family. So it's just all different, branches and pieces that separate that whole genre and that whole lifestyle. The books that I read always have a romance element to them. They are, at their heart, they call them mafia romances because of the organized crime element it's prevalent in the book, and that's the occupations usually of at least the main male character, and sometimes the female character, she's from a family where that is, what they do. But, of course, in these types of organizations of organized crime, not very many of them are led by women. So usually the woman, even if she's from a family, she more than likely has been used as like a pawn, so to speak, to unite families. She's going to marry somebody. So there's a lot of arranged marriages and things like that. So I don't even know how I got into this or what the first book I think I actually reviewed, if you go back through the channel, maybe last year or the year before, I maybe reviewed the first book I read like that, where it was something different, because I've always been interested in the lore of it. Like I said, The Godfather is one of my favorite movies. Sopranos was one of my favorite television shows. So it goes without saying that I have some type of twisted fondness for that type of entertainment, or media or whatever. So reading some of the books that I have read, a lot of them, like I will say, I have started some of them, and some of them are even too dark for me. And then some of them are just kind of silly or ridiculous, or they're just, like trying to go for shock and awe, but there's really no story there. Because that's the other thing. Like all the ones that I'm going to talk about today, there's a like legit storyline there. These aren't just like, oh, we're talking about a mafia enforcer or a mafia don or a leader of a family and this whole thing for no reason. And I also don't like the ones where, like I said, for most of them, it's just, I guess, I don't know if this is realistic or not. I don't know anybody in the mafia, if it exists. I don't know anybody in that world. So I don't know how true this is. I know that this was a thing once upon a time. I don't know if it's still happening, where, arranged marriages happened all the time. And the daughters, that's primarily all they were being groomed for, was to grow up one day and marry so they could unite, this family and this family with their kids so that they could have strong alliances. But the ones where they like have a lot of, like where it's just excessive, where the women are just treated as not even second-class citizens. They just are pawns in every single layer of the organization in the world, and just are disregarded. I don't like books like that. The majority of the books that I read and that I'm going to talk about, even though on its face it seems like the main female character is the weakest link, eventually she brings that mafia don to his knees, and like he would burn down the whole world for her. So it's like that transfer or exchange of power, how she actually becomes more powerful than him in some instance. I love the friends to enemies trope, and the ones where this woman does not even want to be bothered with this man. Just because you think, you're nice looking, you got all this money, and you rule all these men, I don't want to have anything to do with you, and because that knocks them down a peg or two as well, because they have this machismo and this thing where they can get any woman, but the woman that they usually want don't even want them. And so you have to fight kind of for that relationship. I also love the type of stories in this genre where, they all start off from wherever they start off from, and there's a crime element, right? But the ones where they are trying to push to do things legitimately, to legitimize their business, or they don't want like certain elements of the business, like human trafficking or drug trafficking, like they want to just deal with the maybe selling things to other countries or moving illegal things that they've acquired, and even like the weapons or whatever. So anyway, I could go on and on with that. Like I said, I probably know way more than I should about this whole subject. I'm just going to go down and just talk about really briefly, and I'm pulling up on my Kindle because the majority of them I have read through Kindle Unlimited. And that is the way to read these books. If you have Kindle Unlimited, the majority of them, if you go into the search engine and you type in, mafia stories or mafia romance, all the stories will come up. And I would venture to say 95% of them are on Kindle Unlimited. So if you're paying that $7.99 a month for your membership, they're all included for free. You can, for free, under the membership. So anyway, the first one it's a book called Sparrow. And let me see here. I don't know if I can pull up. I'll just show y'all the screen here. But that's the book cover, if you can see it. It's called Sparrow. So this one was different in that the guy who was the main character, he was more of an enforcer, right? And what the enforcers are, it's like with the mob bosses, they send these people out to lean on people that owe them money, or that has, like if you steal something from the mob, the don or the head of the 9 times out of 10, they're not coming to deal with you. They have muscle for that. They have guys on their payroll, their minions or their stooges. They go and do that, but they call them enforcers because they're enforcing the boss's rules or enforcing whatever they need to enforce. So there's a guy named Troy. He's the main character, and then the woman, her name is Sparrow, hence the title. And this was one of the ones that was an arranged marriage. And I think he made a promise, and bear with me because some of these I read like so long ago, but that's why I'm pulling up with the blurb so I can kind of give you an idea. But I had them in the app that I have, the reading app, like I put stars or notations for the ones that I really enjoyed. So here we are. Anyway, it was an arranged marriage, and Troy promised Sparrow's dad that he would marry her. And one thing I do remember about this book is, it follows a formula. She didn't want to have anything to do with him. He was a big, scary guy, didn't want to really marry her, but he, was true to his word. Then they really start talking, and he saw, kind of person she was and vice versa, and they actually fell for each other, right? But the thing I remember about this book, there was also like a twist, because some of these books surprise you. Like I said, with their storylines, it's either deeper than you think, or there's a twist or something compelling about the book. Because when you read the kind of books that I read, like I need something else. It can't just be, all fluff or whatever. And we find out why that promise was made, right? At the very end, there's like this little twist in there. So I really enjoyed that, and it made this book kind of stand out to me. And that's Sparrow by L.J. Shen, S-H-E-N. And she writes romance books, but a lot of her books are either like in this realm or dark. Like she kind of, that's her playground a little bit. And I'm assuming LJ, I think it's a woman author. And the next one, it's called Merciless Saints by Michelle Hurd. Merciless Saints. I may or may not have read all of Michelle Hurd's books, and yes, there are a lot of them. Now, her books, like the one that Sparrow was not a part of any series. Michelle Hurd's books are the reason why I started giving series a chance. And let me tell you why. Because her books were spin-offs, more or less. They weren't like connected where you had to read the next book to figure out, all of her books can be read as standalones. There's no cliffhangers. There's, nothing that you need to read the book before to understand about the other book. I mean, you could start at any point. I think it just makes for a better experience because there's so many Easter eggs, and you go, oh, that's Damien. He was in, and you maybe get some follow up as to what happened to a particular character by reading, her books. And I just went down the rabbit hole with this woman. She has a very clever thing that she did, and I did talk about this in another video, where she has a school that all of these mobsters, when they're younger, they're kids, they go through, called Saint Monarchs, to hone their skills, right? And I will tell you, these are not YA books. She just happens to use it. I mean, they're all like adults when they go there. And when I say they're their kids, they're like in their 20s or early 20s. There might be the children of older mobsters or whatever. But they all go there to kind of hone their skills, to learn how to fight, to learn how to protect themselves, to learn shrewd business things, because these are people who are going to be taking over or inheriting to some degree the family business. And the thing too that I really liked about Michelle Hurd's books is that all the female characters, well, not all, maybe just a few, but the majority of her female characters are like kick-ass women. Like, they're at Saint Monarchs too, so they can fight, they can shoot, they're going to be having serious positions within their family's organizations. They're not necessarily pawns that they're just trying to use to unite families. So that was a thing that I really enjoyed. This particular book, The Merciless Saints, is a part of a 5-book series, but like I said, they're all standalones. This one I really enjoyed. It was about a couple named Damien and Winter, and they met at the Saint Monarch School. And Winter had lost, her family, but they were really they were really big players. Her dad was like a guy that, everybody respected and feared and everything. And she was all alone after, her family died, and there was a possibility that she could lose the fortune and everything that her dad had worked for, because, they thought she was weak, that she would be weak because she was a woman. And she had to show them that she wasn't. And then Damien, he met her at the school, like they became a couple, like a power couple, because he was from a family like that. And they did end up getting married to save not only her, family business and reputation, but it made them even more powerful, kind of uniting their bloodline or whatever. So that one was really good as well. And there was always, in all of her books, there's always a foe or somebody that they're trying to beat, and they have to work together to overcome things or whatever. There's always good storylines in her books. So any Michelle Hurd book, and from what I have seen, I think that all of her books are pretty much in the like mafia romance genre. Michelle. And then there's Silent Lies by Neva Altaj, Silent Lies. And much like Michelle Hurd, this author seems to exclusively write in this genre, and also has books that are standalones, but they're part of a series where maybe, let's say, if you got 5 guys that are part of an organization, you get each one of their stories. But again, you don't have to like read all of them. It's not a continuation, but it's just pretty cool. So I've read all of her books as well. And the thing too that she does now, at first I was kind of turned off by this, because I was like, well, how big are we talking? Because even in this one it says age gap romance or whatever. I'm not reading it where somebody's old enough to be somebody's daddy. Most of the time with her books, it's like, let's say if the main female character is 25, the man may be 39, like something like that. Now that, that's okay. But like anytime you're getting 20 years plus, I don't read those kind of stories, because that's just too much. This particular story features characters Drago and Sienna. And again, both of them are from that world. Sienna's from that world, and theirs is a arranged marriage type situation to strengthen I think her family, but I think it's to more legitimize as his family. So they're helping each other out. And she is like, she's known since she was a small child, like, this is all I'm gonna grow up and be able to do, is marry a mafioso. That's what they're grooming me for, right? But because she just was so okay with it, I think that's what intrigued Drago. It's like, ain't no way you're okay with this. Who are you really? What's really under the veil? I want to get to know the real you. How do you really feel about this? He really wanted to know the real her. And when the stories are like relationship centric like that, I think they are that brings another layer to them, when there's actually some care and concern. It's not just a thing where like, you're my wife, you do what I tell you to do, or I'm just gonna marry this guy and we're just gonna have an awful marriage. But when they actually have those scenes and moments where these characters are connecting, and it seems like a real possibility that they would be a couple outside of their circumstances. So this was another one that I really enjoyed. And like I said, I've read all of her books. She has even a new section or series coming out with the adult children of some of the people from this particular series, which what is this series called? Perfectly Imperfect. So yeah, that was a good one. Any of the books in that one, they're really good. And let me take a sidebar here. It's funny because all the books that I've read, it's so crazy that a lot of the titles seem very similar. A lot of the character names seem very similar, and even some of the artwork, because I don't know if they're using AI, which is more than likely what they're using, because these people are too tatted. They have way too many tattoos to be real people. And then some of them have the name of the organization from the book. But yeah, I thought I was going crazy. One time I was reading a book and I was like, have I read this already? Because how many Lucas could there be, and Damianos, and Stefans, but it was different books. But I guess just like I do when I write stories, you go and you research maybe character names for a particular time frame or a particular region of a country, and I guess that's what a lot of these authors do, because they have a lot of characters that have the same names, which I thought was interesting. The next one, and I guess she's changing up her covers, because this had a cover. This book is not new. It has 17,000 ratings and reviews, almost 5 stars across the board. So I guess she's just, a lot of times these people do that too. They change up their covers with the more popular the book becomes. They go and they give you another version with the cover. I don't know if that's a marketing ploy to get people to buy the book again, or what's going on with that. But anyway, Brutal Vows by J.T. Geisinger. I think that's how you pronounce it. Brutal Vows. Again, another part of a series, the Queens and Monsters book. I've read all of her books as well. And this is part of a series, but the books are standalone. And the little tagline here, it says, dark, sexy mafia romance where the fast-paced tension of John Wick meets the high-stakes love of Romeo and Juliet. I mean, what more could you ask for? And this one, I remember, this is like, I had read all the books in the series. I think this was one of the last ones that I read. And it's a woman named Raina and a guy named Spider. They were going to do an arranged marriage, and they had Spider, which is like his nickname. He was going to marry her niece, and she was like, ain't no way, you too old for her. And I was like, yes, he is. And he didn't want to marry her anyway. You know, a lot of times the guys are kind of reluctant as well because, and they will say like, as part of the dialogue that this is a kid, you know, I don't, or whatever. But, so she kind of like, what is the thing? Like Hunger Games, I volunteers tribute. She volunteered herself so that her niece didn't have to marry him. And they were like, well, you know, you're kind of like out the game. Like you're like already like in your late 30s. Can you even have kids? Like this man is going to want to, you know, continue his bloodline, blah, blah, blah. But they were like oil and water at first, but they ended up getting married and, you know, living happily ever after. So this was another really good one, Brutal Vows by J.T. Geisinger. Any of the books that, now I think that this person has written other book, like in other genres, but I think the majority of their books are in this genre. And like I said, I've enjoyed all the ones that I've read. Okay, so how many more do we have? I think I'm just going to do, well, it's two more that I want to talk about. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, When She Loves by Gabrielle Sands, another standalone in a series. And this kind of like flipped the things because most of the time with these series books, it's the male characters and like their friends or brothers or whatever, they each get a book. Right? Well, in this particular story, it was a group of sisters and they all got a book. And in this particular one, all of these books were really good in this series. But When She Loves, this was the last one in the series. And it was with Raphael and Cleo. And Cleo was the Spitfire of the sisters. And, you know, she ended up, I think her sister was engaged to Raphael and her sister was in love with somebody else, because that happens too, where they already have somebody and you just gonna take them out of that relationship and out of that thing and make them marry this person. So Cleo, again, just like in the last book I mentioned, she was kind of like, I want my sister to be happy, whatever, I'll marry this dude. And she is very, like she was very wild, right? And she figured that she was going to make his life a living hell, and they would just be married in name only. And when I tell you, she was kind of making me mad because of the amount of money she was spending. She was just spending his money just to be spending it because she was trying to make him dislike her or whatever. And there's like this one scene where he, like his accountant or somebody calls him and is like, you may want to like put a stop on your credit card or take your wife off the, you know, bank account or something because she's spending too much money. And he was like, well, how much is she spending? When the man told him, he was like, well, put some more money in there so she can keep spending it. You know, and I thought that was hilarious because she really didn't want any of the stuff. She started donating a lot of stuff and she saw that it wasn't getting to him the way that she thought. He just put more money in the account for her to spend. But they ended up, I really enjoyed their relationship because she left him at one point because she's like, well, if you're not going to run away with me spending your money, I'm just going to leave. And he went after her and drug her back, you know, willingly. But, you know, I really liked their relationship and their dynamic and how he really changed after, you know, admitting how he felt about her and all that stuff. So that was a really good one. When She Loves, very good story. Okay, one more to go. Virtuous Vows by T.L. Smith and Kia Carrington Russell. This is the first duo that I've read in this genre. And again, this is a part of a series of standalones. I think that that's also a thing, like that, you know, they write multiple characters, you know, in that world or whatever with in the Mafia books, it seems like a lot of them are a part of series. I've read, I mean, they're all standalones, but I've read very few that didn't have other books that you could delve into. It's either a genre that you're gonna love or hate. It's not a middle of the road type thing. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I tell you who does love these kind of books, the book talkers, because that's where you see all the hoopla and everything. If you go on to TikTok and you just put in that hashtag, oh my God, the stuff that people, will say and the things that they have to talk about with those books. I would recommend that if you are planning on reading any of those books, that you really do heed the trigger warnings, because they're, like I said, they're not for everybody. They don't hold back on anything in those books, and if you don't like the graphic violence or anything like that, again, may not be your cup of tea. So just because I'm recommending them, I don't want you to go reading them and you're like, well, Tracy, you said. Do your own research, because I have different tastes when it comes to certain books. I'm a lot more open when I read certain books, whereas some people, I know people that don't even like curse words in books. So you just got to take everything with a grain of salt, because they are dark. And I think that's what they call them, like dark, like romances or something like that, with the level of violence and sex and different things that are in those kind of books. But yeah, so anyway, like I said, this is just something I've been wanting to do, like make a video to talk a little bit more in depth about that particular genre, because I know that I mention it every now and then in some of my videos. So let me know if you have read any of those books. Drop, a book in the comment, or if you have any recommendations. I mean, I may have already read it, but I still would love to hear from you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure that you like this video and go ahead and take the opportunity to subscribe to my channel now if you have not already done so. And share my content with someone who you think may enjoy it. Thanks again. You guys have a great day, and I will see you next week. Bye.